So when people say things are in divine order, it doesn't mean that the messes on planet Earth are part of that divine order. It means hidden beneath our mess is a divine order that's waiting for us. Not the mess. That's just ignorant people that say that. Oh, somehow it's all God's will. No, it isn't. It isn't. It isn't God's will. The stuff of this world is not God's will. And people will write books about it, and people will buy those books because they're going, whew, that helps me understand it, and it makes me feel better. Well, it only makes you feel better for now. When you recognize the divinity inside, it will never be okay with saying that pain in this world is part of God's plan. That's the ego still just being placated. There's something more, guys. There's something more for us. Perfection, divinity. And anything less is, it makes people feel better to just settle for less. And I understand that, which I'll probably come back to in a few minutes. But imagine just that there is only God and that there is only love. All the rest is made up. That's why the masters of the Far East say it's an illusion, this world. They don't mean that like it's just a cool statement. They mean it. It's an illusion. What we think we see is not the real world, but the real world is hidden behind that world. So right now, there's a lot going on, through the planet, around the planet. People are talking about lots of astrological configurations and challenges. Heavy-duty stuff. Some never be seen before, and some not for many, many millennium. It's really, really challenging times, astrologically, or, just yesterday I overheard, some folks talking about we're ending a 9 cycle, numerologically. That's also, endings. It's ending a cycle, getting ready for new beginnings, but more of that, all the significance or meaning of coming to an end of a cycle. It doesn't matter how you slice it. It doesn't matter what you name it. No matter what the stuff that whatever you call this, the bottom line is Earth is going through a collective dark night of the soul. Where individuals go through dark night of the soul, that's kind of a drag. When a few of us that are friends are going through it at the same time, woo, that's a big drag. When the planet is going through it, like, wow, hello, wow, right? So somebody even contacted me and said, there's news about Saturn is changing colors and they don't know why. Saturn, the symbol of karma. Saturn, the symbol of lessons. It's not a bad planet. It's the symbol of, picture Saturn instead of this fierce, ferocious, I'm the god of Saturn coming to bring karma to their, picture it a different, kind of give it a different spin, like, hi. Saturn, hi, just checking in, see if you have any unfinished business, any stuff you might have overlooked. I'd like to help you go back and look at that, deal with that. Saturn has returned to shine some light, and that's you could look at it that way because it certainly isn't bad. The reason people put the negative spin to it, why do they put the negative spin to Hades in the Greek mythologies? The Hellenistic, even the Hellenistic influences to our Bible have the Hades concept. The reason these are thought to be negative and bad is because nobody wants them. Nobody wants to look at their stuff. Everybody wants ascension, but they don't want to look at what it takes to ascend. You can't ascend without first descending. Jesus said no one rises without first falling. And it's in the Greek mythologies. Typically, the gods, those who have become gods and goddesses, have to traverse the netherland, the netherworlds. They have to look into the stuff, see what's going on. That's why some people say that the deepest mystical sign, which is appropriate for now, since some of you, it's your birthdays right now, is Scorpio. The deepest mystical sign is Scorpio because Pluto will take you in to the deepest recesses. Without that, how do you expect to ascend? You've got to be willing to go deep inside. And that's why, when I'm doing talks in my life, in my ministry, and in my work here, you don't just hear me talking positive every Sunday. Isn't life flowery? Isn't it great? I also talk about healing and regrets and shames and sadness. Healing old wounds, that's a part of all this. So, the humanity is going through a dark night of the soul. Some people have written in and they said, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a pipeline going in our country, and Native Americans are being affected by that. Michael, what do we do? Amongst other challenges, of course, political stuff that goes on. I already said a long time ago. In the current politics, you have somebody who's overt and somebody who's covert. And now it's just a matter of time and all the covert stuff is being talked about now. You've got to watch this. The whole idea of politics is an illusion as we know it. Politics as we know it is an illusion. It's not transparent. This world lacks transparency. So if you and I are praying for heaven on earth, it has to go through hell first. We have to get into the trenches, find the covert secrets, and bring them to the surface. And it was evident that politics is more and more being seen for what it is. When people are stealing elections years ago, this is not, we think of it as, oh, it's terrible. It's being seen for what it is. Having predicted that 20 years ago, that this is all coming to an end, politics as we know it, none of this surprises me. And the same goes for church as we know it. The systems that are in boxes all have to go, because the third dimension that is defined as a square, a box, is dying. The third dimension is going. And some of us, and I should say a little of, in every one of us, a little bit of us is going to fight to keep that alive. We all have a little bit of structure. I mean, when we all drive home today, we'd rather have our houses still be there. Most of us wouldn't arrive and it's gone and go, wow, part of the ascension. This is great. This is great. Apparently, Spirit has decided I no longer need a home. Wow. Then you turn around, your car's gone. Oh, wow, we're right at the precipice of fifth dimension. This is great. That's not how most of us would respond. That's when we drop to our knees and pray, oh God, bring it back. And God's like, you people are so bipolar, man. 1 minute you're asking for the new world and the next minute you want the old one back. Careful. All right. And incidentally, the pain some people are asking about, Native Americans and struggling and so forth, it should not be a big surprise to see what the Native American people have gone through, not just what they're going through, what they've gone through. And so folks are saying, why? This is a humble people. Why would this happen? It's really hard to explain this and sound politically correct. But there is a spirit in the Native Americans. There is a spirit that has already ascended a long time ago. So when we see Native American people externally going through challenges, there's a part of them that already gave it up a long time ago. They gave up the attempt to fight from the industry that comes in and tries to wipe them out. In a way, you could say it's sad because we broke their spirit a long time ago. But they were spiritual enough as a people that they knew what was happening and they didn't choose to fight it anymore. That's why most of us have Native American spirit guides. It's the most common guide to have on the other side, invisible to most people. It's the most common guide. Not everybody has Persian guides. Not everybody has Israelite guides. But most everybody has native guides. You know why? Because they already ascended. As a group, as a collective, they've already done it. And it's because they said, we get it. So you can't hurt us. So even though we hurt their body, you can't hurt their soul. And so they already earned their rights on the other side to so often be spirit guides. I hope that makes sense, because I know that it looks challenging. And our job is not to say, okay, let's all pray to prevent more harm to Native American people up north, or to pray for a flood that's happening here or there. Our job is to look at what these things bring up in us. You don't fix things, I said this a while ago, but you don't fix things by praying for God to fix them. That actually isn't the way it works. I know that that's what superstition taught us. You don't like something that's happening, tell God to fix it. That actually isn't prayer. It's just being a control freak. True prayer means, what is my part in this? Even without knowing it. There's no Native Americans being abused. It's humanity. It's in all of us that is the abuser and the abused. Go ahead and take responsibility for those and heal the battle inside, and then we can contribute from a healed place prayers of healing for those people. But become part of those people first and bring the healed one to them. If we're sitting over here with tears in our eyes as victims, praying for other people, you're not doing them much good. You're in more pain than they are, believe it or not. Our job is to say, how can I find holiness right here, right now, and bring holiness to those people? Don't bring tears to them. That's not going to help them. Bring holiness. If you were at the deathbed of someone, and that person were scared about the next moments, what's going to happen to them, it doesn't do you or them any good for you to say, I'm scared too for you. Wow. You're dying soon, huh? Oh. I should probably do a Tarot spread to see where you're going to end up, because it's not looking good. That's not how you handle these things. They need someone who's anchored. They need someone who's in the light, right? Well, that's the same, whether they're dying or whether they're hurting on planet Earth. Bring them someone who's awake. And it's okay for you to say, but I don't feel awake. Excellent. Then you should also be asking for help. Just own that and ask for help. Ask for somebody who is in the center, in their center, the knowingness of who they are to some degree to help you. And then when you feel like you've come out of it a little bit, then you have the right and the consciousness to help others. But if you're hurting so bad, then, get straight. Get somebody to help you. What's important is not to say Saturn this, Native Americans that, politicians, and so on and so on. Wherever you are, that's where you begin your work. Human beings are so typically used to saying, okay, my prayers on a day-to-day basis listen to all your prayers. Typically, they're about getting out of a problem. Needing something still means I want out of this problem. I need a new car. Still means I have a problem. Typically, prayers are about that nature. They're about that, I want out of this problem. I want out of being homeless, so give me a home. I want to be out of, partnerlessness, and so give me a partner. What we're supposed to be asking for is the presence of God despite what we're going through. And I've said this many times. Despite what I'm going through, tether to God, anchor in the light of God. And ask for the light of God to be as present as we are capable of seeing it. It's fully present. God has no limitation on that. But we have a bit of a problem, on how much we can perceive that spirit. But that's our job. Be with me while I go through this. And what we do when we say that is we anchor light into the darkest places. I said, I think it was last week, they say in the lost books of the Bible, when Jesus dies, is crucified, what does he do for a few days? He actually descends into hell and then comes back. Why does he descend into hell? Why did the mythologies or stories say that? Even if it's just symbolic. Because you can't raise to the highest level without first going into the deeper selves, right? It's like, wow, get down into the deepest stuff. What's off? What doesn't have light in it? Bring the light. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? That's our job. That's our path. Bringing the light into all places. You can be in a battle, literally in a battlefield as a soldier, and you can say, get me out of this mess. But your greater spiritual job is to say, be with me while I'm here. And you would be bringing light to that place, even a battlefield. bring light into a courtroom, bring light into a sick body, instead of, oh God, I'm not feeling well, please heal me. God, humans can all ask for that. Masters have a different prayer. And it isn't that. Get me out of this mess. Om Mani Padme Hum. Get me out of this mess. Abracadabra. It's be with me while I'm here. It's a prayer of courage. Listen to it. Instead of get me out of this. Why do you think Jesus said that? In the Garden of Gethsemane, his own little dark night of the soul. If it were me, the human self, I would say, let this cup pass. But instead I'm asking, be with me. Be with me while I go through this. Let your will be done. And that's the prayer of Krishna as well in the battle with Arjuna. Arjuna, your job is to bring in the light of God wherever you are. You can do this. It's not about winning the courtroom. It's not about being cured of the disease. Krishna makes that very clear. It's about the quality of consciousness you have while you go through your stuff. So it's okay to be afraid. Don't say, I'm not afraid, because that's a negative affirmation. I'm not afraid. It's better for you to say, I am afraid. I'm feeling afraid. That's how I feel. And yet, isn't it funny that on the other side of that fear is the complete presence of God? So I'm calling that presence forward. I surrender my fear. Where's this fear coming from, by the way? My concern for the Native Americans. You're not praying for the Native Americans. You're being selfish and you don't realize it. Oh, I love that. Nice and strong, making a few people hate me out there. So listen, you're being selfish when you pray for the Native Americans. Why am I saying that? Because you haven't even cleared yourself. You're trying to avoid your own issues and pray for them. What do they bring up in you? Your own fears. Everybody that prays for the sobriety of a loved one. If only God, if only you could make them sober. Why don't you also look at why you have an addict in your life? What does it bring up in you? What is your contribution? Well, I can't have any contribution. I'm just a victim in this. How do you know if you haven't looked inside yet? We need to clean our house, man. We need to get right here. And stop. I'm not saying it's wrong to pray for others. I'm just saying get in the right mind to be able to do it. Get into the God mind. How could you pray for something and expect it to be helpful if you're not in a God mind? Because we know God can answer prayers, so get in God. Being in the victim isn't going to help. And thank God for all the people who have ever been in God when you needed them to be. Thank God for those moments. Not only for those people, but that you were clean and clear enough to attract such a thing. It's fantastic. God, I guess I'm not doing so bad that I created some healthy others to be the voice of God for me today. So our job is not to escape. Our job is to be in a different state of mind with this. We have to, one person wrote in this morning and said, can I talk about the law of attraction? And how can the law of attraction perhaps help us to create a different world? Can the law of attraction help us fix the Native American situation, the political situation? The law of attraction is too easily based on the ego. You cannot just rely on the law of attraction, because the law of attraction means, let's just summarize it, that you'll manifest based on your consciousness, right? Well, since you can have an ego consciousness, is that okay to attract from the ego consciousness? That's not my suggestion. So instead of just calling it this law of attraction that you want to get into, I'm going to recommend you try the law of co-creation. Don't attract based on just your consciousness, because that general theme is, I'm going to go ahead and start thinking a thought of what I want to create. And as it says, it's a very neutral law. Anything you want. Cars, partnerships, and people have cutouts, on their little living room walls, of actors and actresses. Ooh, I want him. God, psychically, these poor people, right? They're like, I don't know why, but I'm getting tired and I'm only like 40 and I feel like I'm 80. It's because everybody's, sucking their energy wanting to be married to them. So Everybody's got their cutouts of them on their living room walls and whatever. It's like, So, try the law of co-creation. How is it different? One you do with God, and the other you may or may not do with God. I just insist. The law of co-creation. The difference is this. Before I center into creating what I'd like to create in my life, I first center into a feeling of God, like love and peace and oneness and joy. Center into the presence of God. And then only visualize things that are congruent with the feeling you just called in. See? There's no needing to effort with my mind. I'm going to create this. I chill in the presence of God. I center into joy, and then I just imagine. I don't have to say, I'm now going to manifest this much money. I'm going to manifest this car. What I do is I center into joy and imagine, what kind of car would I drive if I'm centered into joy? And obviously, it's going to be one that feels kind of smooth. Not down the freeway, right? Smooth joy. What kind of relationship would I have? Oh, I got to have that actor. No, not necessarily, man. Center into God, peace and joy. Create a joyous partnership, not the one your imagery wants, longs for, needs, insists. Because the only people that answer ads like that are all messed up. Hi, listen, I heard you were needy. I like to be needed. Just when you come from this place of I feel peaceful, I just feel so much peace and joy. Now that's the law of attraction, let's say, and at its best. The love in me is creating. The joy in me is drawing to it more of itself. Peace creates peace. Longing creates longing. So why not center into peace? Why not center into joy, love, abundance? That's, let me create a job from the state of consciousness of abundance. Not just willing a job to happen, but coming from the consciousness of abundance. So I would say practice co-creation. Is that making sense, the distinction? Practice co-creating. Just center into God. It's not complicated. Center, just before you do all your usual visualization, just a slight variation. Center into God first. What is the feeling of God? Center into peace, tranquility, joy, whatever you perceive God to be. And then from a more relaxed, see it so. And yes, visualize vividly. Yes, try to be very clear. And no, never get attached. Do not get attached to what you're visualizing. It's this or something better. I just know generally this is what I'm looking for. And I know that it's right. I don't have to say, God, I hope, because one person emailed a question today, how do I know, if I'm using these laws of creation, how do I know if it's coming from God or not? If you're centered into joy, your odds are so much better. If you're centered into a feeling of God, you're co-creating. And you can be sure of that, rather than, well, I want a new car, but I don't know if it's God's will. So even the laws of attraction, if you segment it away from God, can be coming from the wrong place. Or even if it's not, we can be uncertain about it. And we don't want to go into prayer in an uncertain state of mind. So briefly, I want to share this as well. All this stuff that we deal with on planet Earth is really subtly, we're all longing. When you say you're longing for a partnership, when you say you're longing for a new job, underneath it all is what you really look for is God. At the risk of sounding a little bit maybe religious, what we're really looking for is God. And some people are going, well, now he's losing me here because he's starting to talk about the invisible stuff. I would still want a partner to snuggle with. God first. I know it's hard to believe and practice, but God first. Have that presence and you attract safer people to snuggle with. What good does it do you to say, I manifested somebody to snuggle with? And I fear for my life, but at least it's a warm body. Yeah, being around them sort of makes my shoulders pull up, my chakras clench, my aura withdraw within itself. But, so nice. I'd rather be alone and look like that. Expansiveness. I'd rather be alone and feel like that. And choose that only another person that feels like that would be somebody to play with, to enjoy, to have in my space. And it doesn't even have to be a partner. How about friends that feel like that? That's kind of cool. So you get used to it and you have friends that feel like that. And then you just, raise the bar a little here and there with other things, try out other things, dating or whatever, but they all have to feel like this. Every time we bargain away that bar, that line, the further we drift in our bargaining, that's what we get back. And human beings have learned to stray so little at a time that before we know it, we're way over here. And it's very important for us to have a know thyself way of living. To know, God, seriously, I've gone this far away? Come back. That's being born again. Come back. Die of the old. It's too late. I've already gone too far into drugs. It's never too late. Too far into drinking. Too far into being unfaithful with my partner. Whatever it is that I've gone too far, it's never too late. Although, sometimes there will be some casualties. When I'm going to come back to my center, sometimes it means some friends will not survive this shift. Some partners will not survive this shift. Sometimes if you happen to have ever wounded your children so much, even though you're regretful and honestly, earnestly, wanting to make amends, sometimes it's so far you have to accept that loss for now. And you may not get them back now, right now, because it's gone too far. Or if you've been so hurt by somebody, you might have to let them go to get back to your center. You just do your best to stay in the light of God. No intentions to harm others, but this is your goal. Coming back to center is your goal. No matter what else, no matter what happens out there, getting back to my center is my goal. If you start to bargain and someone says, well, I see that you're wanting to get back to your center. Of course, that's not the wording they would use, but if they see you're trying to get back to your center and they want to deal with you and say, how about if you only go halfway? Kind of like saying, all right, look, I know you're ready to cut me out if I'm excessive in my addictions. Yes, I cheat on you regularly. How about if I cut it back to once a year? Well, gosh, really? Because it used to be 12 times a year, just once a year. Maybe I can do that because I really do want you in my life. You're still bargaining. And that's how much God you're going to get. So decide. The more you get to the center, the more God you have. How much? It's all about getting back to God, getting back to heaven. And it's a state of consciousness, remember? So think of it like this. We come here lifetime after lifetime, and in honor of our workshop later on the Akashic Records and reincarnation and things like this, in the idea that we come back. Why do we come back? There's people that come back and they're saying, well, I'd love to be done and ascend, but look at how you live your life today. Even if you say, well, I'm a pretty good person, but I'm just really into my children. I think that's pretty beautiful. You don't usually ascend when you're addicted to your children. That's not usually one of the criteria to ascension. So if you're a great mom, I think it's fantastic. It just means you're going to come back and be close to them again. So good job. If you want to come back, I think it's a great thing. Good job. If you're saying you want God in heaven first and foremost, that's sort of why Jesus was interpreted as saying, I come as a sword to divide you from your family, your parents, your children. He's meaning you have to make a decision at some point, your priorities. And even though you say, well, there's nothing wrong with choosing my children first, my parents first, my partner first, God needs to be the first priority in all things. And it doesn't mean you have to neglect the others or not love them. It doesn't mean you have to love them less. But God first means I will parent from my center. I will partner from my center. Not partner and hope that my partner and I will find a center. Center and partner from that space. Nothing first. Nothing before God. That's, that will have no gods before me. That's what that means. Nothing first. Nothing before God. So imagine that if we use the body as a metaphor, the upper three chakras is heaven, Most of us are living down, and especially if you're physically alive, use the chakras as a metaphor. Everyone in this room that's visible is in their root chakra, metaphorically. You know, it's not just a chakra, it's a state of consciousness. We are physically alive, so we're down here in our root center. And we're sitting in these chairs physically, so that's you being alive. When you pass away, you leave the root chakra and go to the second chakra, which is the astral emotional chakra, the astral plane. And then after you deal with lessons in the astral plane, which is a little bit of a mix of purging out some old stuff, emotional issues, as well as starting to see, you know, some levels of heaven. There's, as they say, there's seventh heaven. It's because there's levels of heaven consciousness. So in the astral plane, you get a taste of what heaven is like. But it's a very humanistic version of heaven. You know, it's still somewhat subjective to what your beliefs are all about. So you go through that part of the astral world, then you go to the third chakra, energetically, meaning, you know, you're moving through the universe, you're moving through spheres of consciousness and so the planes of consciousness. So you'll go to the third chakra, metaphorically, the mental level. You've passed from the physical plane to the astral plane to the mental plane. And then just like in the body, there's a diaphragm right here. You can't get past the diaphragm. This musculature in the body takes all people that are moving up, up, up. You'll bounce off the diaphragm and be sent back. And this is the wheel of life, as Buddha called it, the cycle of necessity. Everybody keeps moving through first, second, third chakra back, first, second, third chakra back. And we move around in this cycle. Some of us make it faster than others to, you know, through these cycles, but we all move through these cycles. Unless you reach a level of consciousness where you feel clear. It's called an ascended master usually. And then you pierce this veil here, the diaphragm, and you become the heart chakra. That's the level of Buddha consciousness and the level of many others, you know, that we would consider Saint Germain and others, male and female people on planet Earth, that rise into the heart chakra. Beings of this level do not have to return. Although sometimes they do. Some stay up in here, gifting love and knowledge to the world. Some actually will come down to these other planes and work with us as we're cycling through, in and out. And some will even come and manifest again, which is risky. Because you can have an all-knowingness, but for you to take on a body, you have to take a sleeping pill that allows you to forget your all-knowingness. You can keep a lot of the knowingness, but you have to have at least a little something that helps keep you in a body. Because if you're in complete awareness, it's hard to hold together a dense body because you're not a dense-minded person. You're so in light that your body keeps wanting to turn into light. So you have to kind of have a bit of a consciousness, like I say, it's like a sleeping pill sort of, that keeps us grounded a little bit. That could be a little doubt now and then, a little fear now and then, an illness. An illness could be your cross. Not your cross as in you're naughty or bad. Your cross meaning to anchor you here. Think of it that way. So don't shame yourself when you can't get it all right. Don't shame, because even if you're the saint of saints, you're going to still have something to work on while you're here. Focus on the work and not the shame. Focus on the work and not the cross. Go ahead and breathe and do what you can to change what you can about the cross that you bear. Change what you can about the illness or the doubts and the fears. Change what you can and then accept what you can't. Some of it you just have to smile and go, oh well, that could be part of my way of being here. And if I focus only on what I'm missing and lacking and, gosh, I'm spiritual, where's my partner? I'm spiritual, where's my car? Why can't I create a car? That could be your thing. And when you get to the other side, they'll say, Bodhisattva, great to see you back, how'd you do? Well, damned if I didn't get that car. I worked at it, and I worked. What do you mean, that's all you did? Well, yeah, because it was the only thing that wasn't going right, so I kept working on it. They'll be like, we sent you to save humanity, man. Seriously? And you were all into a Chevy? Is that serious? You know? Lighten up. You know, like relax. It's okay. There's going to be stuff. There's going to be stuff in the world. A Course in Miracles is trying to tell us, you're meant to be free of the stuff in this world in consciousness. It doesn't mean stuff will not happen, but you're destined to come to a state of consciousness where it has no control over you anymore. So hold your vision to that effect. And every time you help another person to remember who they are despite their pains and fears, you're actually helping them through not only a personal initiation, but global initiation. You're helping somebody reach the light at the end of the tunnel. Gosh, what more could we do? Now here's a question. So we're all seeking heaven. We're all seeking heaven. Think of somebody, we can do this in our meditation perhaps, but think of somebody who you've really been challenged with in this lifetime. The person most annoying to you, and it could be somebody you've never even met. It could be a dictator from a third world, hurtful dictator. It could be historic character. It could be somebody in your life. But think about this. If you were entering heaven and they said, now, there are 10 levels of heaven that you get to experience. You can walk in and go all the way to the 10th floor, man, and experience the ultimate heaven. Or would you be willing to trade some levels in for that person you were just thinking about? Would you? How many levels of heaven would you be willing to give up for that pain in the neck, that person? Would you give up any heaven for Hitler? Would you give up any heaven for a sexual abuser, molester? And if you say no, it's okay. Go on in. What I would do is I'd give up several levels of heaven. I would give up several levels. I would say, yep, if I were literally being asked right now, I can't think of anybody that I think that poorly of, but people that have behaved poorly and harmed a lot of people collectively, abuses and abusers. Yeah, if I were standing there and Spirit said, you can enter heaven, but you only get to go to the 5th floor if you can trade in half of your heaven consciousness levels for these people, I'd do it. And it's not what everybody would do, but I would do that. And you should ask yourself a little bit more about that. Why you would or wouldn't do that. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying why. Think about that. Now somebody would say, well, first of all, I'm not responsible for them. I would be giving up some of my good for them. There's no them. We're all in this together. Somebody could say, well, okay, but now I'm going to only have heaven at a 5 instead of a 10. Trust me, heaven at a 1 is going to be better than anything you've ever imagined. So that's how I would look at it. I don't share a lot of times visions and metaphysical gifts and things like that of mine. I don't talk about them and visions and these kinds of surreal kinds of things. I don't do that a lot because it's too tempting for people to misunderstand it. Some get afraid of it and some make it into something too wonderful. So, but for example, I once had a vision where I'm being offered heaven. You can have this now if you'd like this. And I won't explain how this vision took place or where and what, but you can have this heaven. Even if you can have heaven, you can enter heaven and experience the bliss of blisses, highest levels of heaven right now for a period of time, let's say. And here's what I did. I actually said no. I mean, and I have my visions and experiences of heaven, but in this particular one, this was going to be an enormously, incredibly wonderful experience of heaven. And I said no. And here was my reasoning. Because I know that when we taste heaven, it's really hard to be on earth. So my reply to the guide at the time was, it would only make me long for that goodness. Now, I thought, okay, so that's fine. So we just go back to earth and continue as I was. But you know what I heard in response to that? Because you were willing to let go of that high you could have. We're going to integrate that into you on your day-to-day living. And I realized that that was how I do a lot of what I do. Because it's packed in there. And I'm not saying I'm perfect and holy. It's just that, in fact, it's challenging sometimes. Because there's all this energy inside. You know, there's all this wow, but it's too much of a contrast to go, God, look at heaven way out there. It's so beautiful. It's hard to deal with day-to-day stuff when you know heaven's out there. Now, that's not just me. Some of you have barely even come in this planet because you remember and you tasted that other realm. So you didn't even come in all the way. So I'm saying not just to me, to all of you, to all of us. It is a greater task not to long for heaven, but to live it here and now. It's a greater challenge to be the presence of heaven. And one of the wonderful things I experienced, like I said, was to say, no, it's okay. Because I know what that would do, and it's such a vibration. So many people, I've rarely ever, if ever, heard somebody have a near-death experience and not say, I don't even want to go back. You know, here's the typical thing. They're passing away, they're dying, a car accident, oh my God, my children, I'm dying, I don't want to leave my children. Ooh, then all of a sudden, angels and oneness, they're like, what children? I'm good. I mean, it's amazing. They're like, I'm good. You know, 1 minute it's my partner and my beloved, and they're like, what? This is good. And they say, you know, when spirits told them you have to go back. Oh no, they don't usually say, yes, great. The contrast is so remarkable. The contrast is so unfathomable to the human brain because it's a feeling beyond human comprehension. That's why they call it the peace that surpasses understanding. There is a peace, oneness, tranquility, bliss that you can't put into words. Taste that, and there's this longing for it that can keep you out of your body. Instead, imagine the taste of it, drink it in, and get into earth and live it. Bring it in and integrate it in whatever way you can. Wherever you are, that's the battle. Wherever you are, that's the place to bring that life in. And I know we would like to pray the bad stuff away. Instead, be the light of the world. How can I be the light? Wherever I am. I wish I weren't here, because then I could do good. Bring the goodness wherever you are. I know it's a challenging thing. It's a challenging thing. Like I said, imagining somebody that you've seen really hurtful. Would you give up a little heaven for that person? Just remember, guys, first of all, it's all one. But secondly, if I were to be able to trade in a bit of heaven to transform those people, then the world may not have that stuff anymore. Why wouldn't I do that? If we keep thinking exclusivity, which is the way fundamental religion tries to treat things, it just actually creates more hell. So we've got a job to do. And the job is right here, right now, wherever we are. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying it's easy, but what I will say is stop and refill in an oasis. I'm not saying so there's people out there living in towns that don't have a lot of spirituality. They don't have a lot of metaphysics. They don't have a lot of new age. There's not local yoga studios, meditation centers, centers like this here. A lot of places, believe it or not, most countries don't have it. So we take it for granted. So what about people like that? Or in this country, there's people living in towns that they're still going to be witch hunted if they do this. So what do we do for them? Well, say, well, good luck. No, we've got to be the oasis for them. The book you wrote might be the one that gives them something to live off of for another week, month, year, 10 years. The videos we present them live streaming might be what they need to hear to keep them alive a bit longer. The website you create for people who have lost loved ones as a support center, as a support site, might be absolute life for them. So whatever we do, even prayers and holding presence, whatever we can do to feed light to the world, go out there and do grid work, meridian lines, vortexes, infuse them with light so that people downstream on those grids can feel that. They meditate, they don't know why, but wow, that town that they thought was not very light-centered, all of a sudden starts to become filled with light. All of a sudden they feel a greater reservoir. Why? Because people are doing grid work, feeding it into the earth, and it goes downstream. There's no place on earth that lacks the ability to become a holy place, but it takes our holy consciousness to make it so. Please take a few centering breaths. Let's share a brief meditation. As always, tuning out the stuff of the world, challenges, stuff of time, the past, the future, issues, concerns. Just drawing into a quiet place in the heart, in the heart chakra. As I've often said, the heart center is like the altar where we meet God. See and imagine yourself becoming lighter and lighter, energetically, vibrationally. The Holy Spirit of God descends down into our heart space, meets us there. That holy Shekinah, that holy host, enters our heart and breathes a blessing into our soul. And as it does so, imagine, feel wings sprouting from your heart center, stretching outward to each side. Feel the body becoming a light body. The blessing of the Holy Spirit, it opens your throat center, where your breath becomes a holy breath. Your spoken word is a co-creation of God because it comes from the heart of love and is guided by the Holy Spirit. See and feel a halo of golden light rising to fill and engulf the entire head and neck region of the body. Holiness. I am part of God and I am very holy. Now, holding this center, remain objective, but you're sitting in this room holding that light, that center. You're standing or sitting here and you see yourself holding that light. And imagine other people in the room that you've known in this lifetime. A variety of people, people that represented greed, poverty, people you know that have struggled to make a living, people you know who have been sick or died from sickness or accidents. A variety of people, black and white, male and female. victims and victimizers. And then imagine this. Every one of them represents a different thought within your mind. Imagine that you're growing so big as a being that the head is not on my body in this room. I'm so large that this room is my head, my mind. And all of those people I've imagined are different neurons in my head, my brain. There's a belief in my mind of poverty, addiction, male, female, black and white. There's a different thought. All these different people represent different thoughts in my mind. Can I still maintain my holy vision of myself as a light being, an angelic being, while still thinking of all these variations? And what we do is we don't become angelic and pray for such people. We recognize them as a part of ourselves, but not yet whole. And so we allow the light in us to become brighter and brighter, shining so bright and brilliant that everything starts to dissipate. My image of color, my image of gender starts to dissipate. All my opinions and all the various people I've known in my life, they all turn to light. There's no this and that. They all disappear into the light of God. I bring the presence of God to all things and all things to the presence of God. I am the light of God. And if God's with me, what could be against me? If I am whole, what would I need? I feel perfect and abundant. The people I would have once scorned, shamed, didn't like, or did like, they've all disappeared into the same light that I am. I have no opinions left. And this is my goal with all people throughout the world. No opinions left. Every politician that still pushes your buttons is just another neuron in the mind, just another belief not yet healed. It just doesn't matter. When there's no matter left, nothing matters. And it's all in the light of God. And in this light, this oneness with God, there is no challenge too great. Because the challenges become unraveled as soon as I bring them into the light of God. And a moment of gratitude, a moment of feeling all beings grateful as well as myself. A moment of imagining how everyone and everything is feeling so grateful that we've brought light to dark places. Victims and victimizers alike dissipated into love. A wave of gratitude out to them, back to us, waves back and forth of gratitude that God is. I am, and we are. Waves of gratitude that nothing changes, that God is, and I am, and we are. Nothing phases that. Waves and waves of gratitude back and forth. Songs of the angels that God is, and that I am, and that we are. Waves. of creation singing thank you. And so it is. Take a few breaths before you open your eyes. Centering